The air in the Thermopylae pass hung heavy, a pungent mixture of sweat, iron, and the acrid tang of human waste. For days, thousands of combatants, Spartan and Persian alike, had converged in this narrow choke point. The immediate sensory data suggested an environment ripe for disease, a logistical nightmare of sanitation for any entrenched force. This was not an open field, but a constricted corridor, flanked by mountains and sea. Natural drainage was minimal, and the flow of the Carcanes River, while present, was insufficient to cleanse the accumulated byproducts of a sustained military presence. The terrain itself became a complicit factor in the hygiene challenge. The 300 Spartan hoplites, alongside their allied forces, occupied the most defensible position. Their primary objective was combat, not environmental management. Yet, the sustained operational readiness of a soldier hinged critically upon their physical health, directly impacted by the surrounding conditions of their temporary encampment. The conventional understanding of ancient hygiene suggests a dire predicament in such a scenario. Without advanced plumbing or waste disposal systems, how did this elite fighting unit circumvent the inevitable spread of debilitating illnesses? The question focuses on the mechanical system of Spartan self-preservation. Spartan culture, while emphasizing martial prowess, paradoxically maintained a foundational respect for personal bodily care. This was not a pursuit of luxury, but a functional requirement for the soldier-athlete. Daily routines instilled from the Agoge dictated attention to physical condition, including skin and hair, even under duress. Access to water, however limited, remained paramount. Small springs and the river itself, though potentially contaminated downstream, provided the fundamental resource for washing. Discipline dictated its careful allocation. For the Spartan, water was not merely for hydration, but a tool for maintaining the integrity of the fighting machine. The primary method for personal cleansing involved oil and a strigil, a curved metal scraper. After applying olive oil, the Spartan would scrape away dirt, sweat, and dead skin. This practice, common throughout the Greek world, served as a rudimentary yet effective form of exfoliation and purification, even without abundant water. Beyond personal cleansing, waste management presented a collective challenge. The Spartan military doctrine, centered on disciplined maneuver, implicitly included protocols for camp sanitation. While latrines would be simple trenches, their placement and regular covering with earth were critical to minimizing odors and disease vectors. The narrowness of Thermopylae meant designated areas for human waste would be strategically chosen, likely on the seaward side where currents could aid dispersal, or further up the mountain slopes away from water sources. The practicality dictated efficiency. Waste was to be quickly moved and contained. Food preparation and consumption also posed hygiene risks. The Spartan diet, while austere, still generated refuse. Animal bones, leftover grains, and other organic matter required disposal away from living and water areas. This systematic separation was a fundamental, albeit rudimentary, form of public health. Footwear, or the lack thereof, played a role. Spartans often went barefoot, a practice that toughened the feet but also exposed them to environmental contaminants. Regular washing of the feet, particularly after marching or combat, would have been a non-negotiable part of the daily routine to prevent infections. The bronze panoply itself, while offering protection, accumulated grime. Regular maintenance of armor and weapons was essential, not only for battle readiness, but also to prevent skin irritations or infections from prolonged contact with unclean surfaces. This ritual cleaning was part of a soldier's discipline. The human system of the Spartan soldier was rigorously conditioned from childhood. The Agoge instilled habits of resilience and self-reliance, extending to personal cleanliness even in harsh conditions. A dirty or unkempt soldier was not only a health risk, but a visible breach of military discipline and Spartan ethos. The syssitia, the communal dining system, fostered a collective responsibility. While primarily social, it reinforced shared standards of conduct and, by extension, hygiene. A single sick individual could compromise the entire fighting unit, making group health a matter of collective survival and military effectiveness. Leadership played a crucial role. The officers, from the enomotarch to the king, were responsible not only for tactical deployment, but also for ensuring adherence to these basic hygiene protocols. Failure to maintain standards could result in various forms of punishment, reinforcing the collective imperative. The focus was on prevention rather than cure. Medical understanding in antiquity was limited, making disease outbreaks catastrophic. Therefore, the Spartan system prioritized practices that minimized exposure to pathogens, treating cleanliness as a preventative mechanical measure to preserve combat effectiveness. This structured approach to hygiene contrasted sharply with the less formalized practices of many contemporary armies. While other Greek city-states shared some cultural practices like the use of strigils, the Spartan system integrated hygiene as a non-negotiable component of its rigorous military training and discipline. The Persian army, vastly larger, faced an exponentially greater challenge in sanitation. While they possessed their own forms of discipline and advanced engineering for their cities, maintaining hygiene for a multi-ethnic, massive force on campaign, particularly in a confined pass, would have been a monumental task. Reports from ancient sources often detail the environmental impact of large armies. The sheer volume of waste generated by the Persian forces at Thermopylae likely contributed significantly to their own health issues, even if not immediately apparent during the direct engagement with the Spartans. The Spartans' inherent advantage was their smaller, more cohesive unit, operating with an ingrained, unified protocol. This allowed for more effective, albeit basic, waste management and personal care practices within their limited area of operations and internal mechanical efficiency. While not possessing the scientific understanding of germ theory, the Spartans' empirical observation and rigid institutional logic led them to practices that by accident mitigated some of the worst health risks. Their system was a practical, rather than theoretical, application of preventative measures. The logistical apparatus supporting the 300 Spartans was comparatively lean. Supply lines for food and water were shorter, reducing the potential for contamination during transport. This minimized the overall biological load on their immediate environment compared to the vast Persian train. However, even the most disciplined system faces limits. The sheer duration of the stand, even if only a few days, pushed the boundaries of their rudimentary sanitation. The confined space, despite best efforts, would inevitably accumulate waste and foster an environment conducive to pathogen growth. The focus on combat readiness, while indirectly supporting hygiene through discipline, ultimately prioritized immediate military objectives over long-term environmental sustainability. In a sustained siege or prolonged encampment, even the Spartan system would have struggled to prevent widespread illness. The limited number of Spartan casualties from disease during the Thermopylae stand is difficult to ascertain from historical records, which focus on combat deaths. However, the short duration of the engagement likely prevented a full-scale hygiene crisis from manifesting within their ranks. The rigidity of the Spartan social and military structure, while enabling strict adherence to daily routines, also represented a potential weakness. Adaptability to entirely novel environmental challenges, especially those requiring complex engineering solutions for waste, was not their forte. Had the conflict at Thermopylae extended for weeks or months, the lack of advanced sanitation infrastructure would have become an insurmountable problem. The very strength of their simple, disciplined approach would have been overwhelmed by the biological output of continuous human occupation. Ultimately, the Spartans maintained hygiene through an institutionalized discipline and the empirical application of basic sanitation principles within a contained short-term operational window. Their methods were effective for the duration, but represented a precarious balance against overwhelming biological forces. The very focus of Spartan life, martial excellence, meat resources, and innovation were directed primarily towards combat. Large-scale public works projects for sanitation, common in other sophisticated societies like Rome, were not a priority for the laconic, land-based power. The simplicity of their sanitation methods, while effective for small, disciplined units on short campaigns, lacked the robust engineering necessary for large, long-term encampments. A prolonged occupation of Thermopylae by the 300 Spartans would inevitably have seen the system buckle under sustained biological pressure. The Spartan system was built for intense, decisive engagements, not attrition warfare against unseen pathogens. Its strength lay in its immediate operational efficiency, not in its capacity to adapt to evolving, diffuse threats like widespread illness born from environmental degradation. Furthermore, the exclusive nature of Spartan citizenship meant a limited pool of individuals. Each loss to disease was a significant blow, harder to replace than in larger, more populous states. This amplified the risk profile of inadequate long-term hygiene in any extended conflict. While Thermopylae proved a tactical triumph of Spartan will, the battle itself was brief. The rapid resolution, however tragic, prevented the full-scale logistical and hygienic collapse that a longer siege or defensive stand would have certainly precipitated for any ancient army, Spartan included. The Spartan solution to hygiene in a choke point was a testament to their institutionalized discipline and the practical application of basic environmental separation. It was a mechanical system designed for immediate function, not for enduring ecological balance in a static, heavily trafficked environment. The Spartans' meticulous attention to personal and basic camp hygiene reveals a profound understanding that the warrior's body was a machine and its maintenance was paramount. What hidden costs beyond the battlefield did such unwavering mechanical discipline impose on the human spirit?